Wooddale, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade family. It's good to see you. Hey, like any good basketball player, we are going to do a pivot. You know, we have loved hearing the stories from the seats over the last year in the junior high ministry. We so value hearing from you as students and you giving testimony to the one who deserves the credit, and that's the Lord. So we want to continue it, but we've got to pivot because we can't do it the same way that we've done it before. So for the next couple of months at least, you will be hearing stories from my room. Digitally going into the room of the person who is giving the story and letting them share and give testimony to the Lord. Our very first Stories from My Room is Anna Thompson. Anna is one of our 9th graders, and I think you'll recognize her because she raises her hand a lot and she sits in the front of the room all the time. Anna is an absolute delight, and it's been so fun to get to know her as the firstborn child in her family. And you'll hear more in her story about how she and I connect. But I'm just thankful that the Lord has restored her and her story in a way that is so tangible and so real. I know you're going to be encouraged by her. So enjoy Anna's Stories from My Room.
Hi, my name is Anna Thompson. I'm in 9th grade and I go to Kennedy High School. I have been blessed to grow up in a loving Christian home my entire life. I said yes to Jesus at the very young age of 2 years and 10 months. I remember my mom telling me about how Jesus wanted to be my best friend and asking me if that was something that I wanted. Me, being the extroverted person that I am, who loves people and hates being alone, eagerly said yes. We said a prayer together as I was lying in bed, and that was that. Besides that, I really don't remember much. One thing that I know now is that the idea of friendship would be a very difficult journey for me in the years ahead. I started struggling with friends when I was in 1st grade. Nobody liked me or wanted to spend time with me. To this day, I don't know why. I would go up to a group of girls on the playground and ask to play with them. I would get physically pushed away from them and told that I wasn't good enough to be in their group. Eventually, I gave up. Part of the playground had 2 tunnels, a top one and a bottom one. I would spend my time in the top tunnel and just watch. 1st grade was a very long, lonely year. I was optimistic when I started 2nd grade. I had a new group of kids and a different teacher. I soon found out that not only did the kids not like me, but that my teacher didn't like me either. One night, my mom and I sat down across the table from my teacher for our parent-student-teacher conference. She told me that I struggled with making friends and that it was my fault that I didn't have any friends. She basically went on to say that I was a horrible student and that I was stupid. As an 8-year-old, that conference was crushing. That day, I felt my voice leave me and I became nearly silent for years. I felt like nothing and I honestly didn't know who I was anymore. I developed really bad trust issues with any new adult that I came into contact with. For example, when I moved into 3rd grade, my mom knew my teacher from a church that she had gone to when they were kids. I knew he was kind, but I didn't talk to him for 2 weeks because I was so scared. My family has been attending Wooddale since I was 5. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't like going on Sunday mornings. This was mostly because my parents were emotionally committed to the 8:30 service and I have never been a morning person. But also it was because my group was tiny and I just didn't click with the other 4 or 5 kids. I met Reagan and Danielle when I entered the 5th and 6th grade ministry. They were the first real friends that I ever had. When it was time to move into the junior high, I was terrified. Even though I had never really connected with Tarman just because our personalities were so different, I didn't want to leave because I had gotten comfortable in the 5th and 6th grade ministry. I soon learned that there really wasn't anything to be nervous about. When Heather came to get us, she was dressed as a full-out cowgirl. We entered the junior high room and were immediately greeted by the other friendly junior high kids and baby goats. I love baby goats. My family didn't end up attending many Sundays at Wooddale that summer due to the amount of time we spent at our cabin. The one Sunday I did attend, Danielle was determined to get me to talk to Heather. After much protesting, Danielle had to physically drag me over to Heather and place me in front of her. Being the tiny 7th grader I was, Heather towered over me in her wedges. Really, the reason I didn't want to say hi was just because I didn't know her that well. And after an extremely short and awkward conversation about headbands and tiaras, I'm pretty sure that I ran away. As August rolled around, so did summer camp at Lake Beauty. I was super excited. I couldn't wait to see what the week had in store for my friends and I. On Tuesday, I broke my toe in a slip and slide. I slipped on the wet grass before I jumped. I still made it down, but as I was stepping out, I saw that my left pinky toe was red, twice the size it should have been, and instead of being in its normal position, it looked like this. Long story short, I found out that it was most likely broken, and that, well, there really isn't much you can do for a broken pinky toe, so I had it buddy taped, and I tried my best to put on a brave face. I told Heather what happened, and she said we'd check in later. On Wednesday morning, as I limped into chapel for morning prayer, Heather was greeting us at the door. She asked me, "How's your foot feeling this morning?" To which I replied, "Not great." Heather gave me a very sympathetic look of genuine concern. That was the first time that any adult outside of my family had ever shown that deep of a concern for me. Throughout the week, I got to know a lot more about Heather, and personality traits just started to click. Our favorite color is orange. We don't like seafood. We love dogs and the Vikings. We're both strong, we're both aggressive huggers, and we're both hot all of the time. During the Wednesday morning chapel session, Heather was teaching on how Jesus died for us, a story I had heard 100 times before. This time was different though. She explained that the whip that the Roman soldiers were using had bits of stone and metal in it, and that every time that he got whipped, it would tear his flesh apart. 39 times. I had never heard the story like that. I knew that he had gotten beaten badly, but I never imagined it to be that brutal. God opened my eyes and I realized how much Jesus went through to die for me. That fall, I decided to be baptized. The more time I spent with Heather and the more things we realized we had in common, the more our friendship grew. Sadly, I ended up losing a friendship partly because I am so much like Heather and she thought that I had changed. I hadn't changed, but God had helped me to realize who I was after not really knowing since 2nd grade. Here's the best way that I can explain it. During life group in 7th grade, we received a year-long devotional called All in All by Sophie Hudson. One of the defos was explaining the relationship between Mary and Elizabeth. When Mary was visited by the angel Gabriel, after telling Mary that she would become pregnant with the Savior of the world, he told her some extraordinary news. Elizabeth, your relative is going... Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month. Luke 1:36. Suddenly, the two cousins with a 50-ish year age gap had way more in common than they ever could have imagined. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, 'What? You too? I thought I was the only one.'" Elizabeth was Mary's me too. Heather is my me too. God was faithful to me and gave me someone who would understand me, so I wouldn't feel alone as I had for a big chunk of my life. A verse that has been encouraging to me is Proverbs 3:5-6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." These are some weird and uncertain times, but it won't be forever. God is in control, and he is always there for you to lean on. Thank you.